What is up, YouTube? What is up, family? We have another Patreon request. We got Silent Cities. This is not une bonne rigolade. This is serious stuff here. We have visiting the largest military cemetery in France. The History Traveler, episode 384. It's time to pay a little bit of tribute, right? For the French that, they were part of World War II also. Yeah, they actually made a huge difference. And we're about to see possibly why and how. That's a lot of graves. It's a lot of graves.
I've said before that in order to fully understand and appreciate World War II, a person really needs to understand and appreciate World War I. The Great War left a scar, literally and figuratively, across the nation of France that would have ripple effects for generations. Right now, I'm in the area of Arras. I'm going to be here for a few days, kind of exploring the history of the First World War in this area. And I just happened to drive by this French cemetery right here. Driving around, there are cemeteries everywhere in this area. I mean, you don't even have to look for them. They're just all over the place. And this one right here, as big as it is not even the biggest one in this area.
Beaucoup de personnes. C'est dommage. C'est triste.
In 1914, the unstoppable force full-on clashed into the immovable object here on the Western Front. And as the Central Powers and the Allies found themselves becoming more and more entrenched and not being able to go through each other, the next available option was to try and go around. This started something that became known as the Race to the Sea, where both the Allies and the Central Powers were trying to outflank each other to get to the English Channel first. Well, if you would have been a French citizen during this period of time, you would not want your village or town to be in the path of these two juggernauts. And the spot where I'm at right now, in Ablain Saint-Nazaire, found themselves in that unfortunate position. I want you to think for a moment about the community that you live in. Think about what it would be like if war came to the place where you live and you had to evacuate. And when you came back,
there was nothing.
There was nothing left. It was just rubble.
Oh, I know all about it. We're watching it happen right now in today's wars, right? Especially in Ukraine. People that have to leave, and Gaza, when they come back, there's nothing. So yeah, nothing has changed, my friend. It's still going on.
Well, that is exactly what happened to Ablain Saint-Nazaire. So if you look at this town, it doesn't look like there's anything that's just like exceptionally old by European standards. That's because there's nothing in this town that is
original,
older than 1918, 1920. This whole village had to be completely rebuilt. Just absolutely awful. Ablain Saint-Nazaire sits at the base of a ridge, and this was in German hands at the end of 1914 and through the spring of 1915. And the Germans wanted to keep it, and the French wanted to take it back. And the only thing left
Oh, wow.
From the war.
Wow.
Is this shell of the church.
Wow.
So if we go up here, we'll get up on the other side of this fence. You can see.
Yep, not much left.
The only thing that I guess you could say survived from the fighting that took place here in the First World War. The Germans had this set up as an artillery observation position. The French knew it, and they just bombed the heck out of this church to deny the Germans a artillery observation position. This was a 16th century church, so it was a historic church, and yeah, you can see what happened to it. After the war, rather than rebuild the church right here, they decided to leave this shell as an everlasting reminder of what had happened in this village. And then they built a new church up the hill. And just beyond this is the high ground that the French were wanting to desperately take back, and they would expend thousands upon thousands of lives to make it happen.
I've always said, man is incredible at building things and creating things. Sometimes it blows my mind what man can do with his bare hands. And at the same time, man is wonderful at destroying everything he builds with his hands. Voila. Yeah, it's sad. I mean, this is what we do. We create and we destroy. Those are the two things we're really good at. But I like the idea. Leave it up there for memory so people can get a little bit of a thought process. In other words, you'll never forget. That's the idea. You'll never forget. Hold on. Let's get rid of that. All right. Never forget. It's a beautiful area, by the way. Beautiful. All country. La campagne. Campagne. Campagne? Campagne. La campagne.
I've made my way up to the top of the plateau of the Notre Dame de Lorette, and once you get up here, you can see why the Germans were fighting so hard to keep this position and why the French wanted it so bad. I mean, the view from here is spectacular. So obviously for an army, this is going to give a commanding view of everything around, be good for artillery position and spotting, things like that. And there was some vicious fighting that took place here in the early part of World War II. Everybody focuses on Verdun, but there was some heavy combat that took place here on this plateau. So the Germans originally occupied it, I think in October of 1914 in the Race to the Sea, and then the French ended up fighting them for it over like the next 6 months. And then eventually were able to take it. So here on this plateau, there's like 5 different spurs that come off of it, so each one of those spurs had to be taken. And it is now the site of the largest French military cemetery in France.
Wow. In the whole country.
I've now moved into the cemetery here at Notre Dame de Lorette, and standing here, you can really get a sense of the scale of loss and sacrifice that France experienced during the First World War. Yeah. There are over 40,000 graves in this cemetery.
Right.
Well, standing here,
mort pour la France,
and looking at all of these rows of crosses back to back is really sobering. If you look at the view in front of us now, we are only looking at half of the cemetery, and these rows of crosses go on for as far as the eye can see. Now, originally, again, as I mentioned, this is a battlefield right here that we are standing on. There was a small chapel up here that had been built in the late 1700s, and this was kind of like a pilgrimage place for a lot of people. Well, the chapel, of course, was completely destroyed. What we're seeing here is a chapel that was rebuilt after the war. And the French official history talked about the conclusion of this battle. And it says, the Germans were beaten and the chapel in ruins was left behind. Beyond was an inextricable, chaotic tangle of underground passages and shelters, mine craters and shell holes, encumbered with dead, arms and equipment and stores. So this place was just completely devastated after the battle, and then
very well
became
kept.
A bit of a collection cemetery for the French, where in the area of the Pas de Calais, where they brought their dead and buried them.
Right.
One of the more prominent features here in this cemetery is this lantern tower. This was built in the years after the war to commemorate the fallen of France here in this area. And inside, they also have the remains, unknown remains of a soldier from the Second World War, and also war in North Africa, and also the French War in Indochina. Unfortunately, we cannot go in there today because they are doing some restoration work. I don't claim to do a lot of things well, but one of the things that I excel at is showing up to sites on days when they are doing some kind of construction work.
Yeah.
But here's something else that I can show. I want you to take a look at these two seemingly empty plots. So if we walk over here, you'll notice that there are no headstones in here. It's just this walled off portion of the cemetery, but it is not empty. Inside of these walls, as we can see right here, are the unknown remains of 4,563 soldiers.
Oh my God. Could be fingers, hands, legs, feet, you know what I mean? Bad, yeah. And there's damage beyond recognition that you don't know who the hell they are. Yeah. I mean, it's not nice when you get hit by a bomb, you know, what the body does. Yeah, it's terrible, but wow. At least they didn't forget about the unknown soldiers as well. That's massive respect.
And then if we go over here,
another same thing. Yep. Probably another
4,500. Again, we have another one of these seemingly empty plots, but this is another mass grave holding the remains of 5,649 soldiers.
My God.
So just to give you a little bit of perspective or something to compare to, just in these two plots alone,
10,
there are more soldiers buried than in the entire Normandy American Cemetery.
Wow.
And these aren't the only spots like this in this place. And that is something else.
Yeah.
Typically when I visit these cemeteries, I try and highlight some of the soldiers who are interred there and tell their stories. To be honest, that's difficult for me here. For English speakers, there aren't a whole lot of resources out there for French military history, at least not that I'm aware of, and that's a shame because I really want to learn more. Here's what I do know. This is the grave of Ernest Barbeau. To my knowledge, he's the highest ranking individual buried here. He was the commander of the 77th Infantry Division, which fought here in this area. And where the present-day Cabaret Rouge Commonwealth War Grave Cemetery is, he had established a headquarters in a trench and was hit by shrapnel while running across open ground.
Yeah.
He was mortally wounded and died later at a dressing station. There's a memorial to him down in Souchez, to him and the 77th. But anyway, here's the grave of Ernest Barbeau. All right, now I mentioned how this cemetery sits on a battlefield. We've talked a little bit about some of the vicious fighting that took place here in 1914 and 1915, and I want to show you what I just found. So if you look here, you can see that the groundskeepers have plowed up all of the ground.
It's very, very well maintained and kept.
In front of these crosses, probably getting ready to plant some new flowers.
Yeah.
And I was walking by.
Oh, they put all flowers.
And just happened to see this shell casing laying right here in the dirt.
What?
That is something else.
What?
Here, all of these years later,
looks like there might be one here too, right here. See it? Wow, that's crazy. They didn't even.
Battlefield is still giving up some of its secrets.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Unfortunately, a lot of people forget what the country that they live in and complain about went through for it to be their country. A lot of people forget that, not just in France, in every country. It's sad. It's sad.
I mentioned how, as an English speaker, it's sometimes difficult to get access to French military history when it comes to the Great War beyond anything that's just kind of surface level, which is really a shame. So I will freely admit that when it comes to the French actions here on the plateau of Notre Dame de Lorette, my knowledge is kind of limited, but that's why I'm here, here to learn. What we are looking at right now.
Well, come to this channel, my friend, and look under the comments of this video, and I'm sure there's going to be a few that are experts at what we're looking at, and they may have something to say. Just saying. If you want a little more expertise, you might find it right here by our own subscribers. You never know.
Is a monument to General Maistre, I think is how you say his last name. He was the general in command of the French 21st Division. That is the division that ended up securing these heights in the spring of 1915, and I really like this monument. You can see he's there with a regular soldier, and he's standing among these pockmarked ruins. This monument was dedicated in May of 1927, so within 10 years of the end of the war, and is placed at the spot that is thought to be the command post of General Maistre. All right, so that was a little bit from the cemetery, but there's one more memorial that they have up here that I really want to show. So we've just entered into the Ring of Remembrance, and what you are looking at are all of these panels, and
names.
On these panels are over 580,000 names. Of soldiers who died, not in just World War I in general, but World War I in the Pas-de-Calais region. So just this region where we are today. That is absolutely wild.
Why don't they have, I guess there's nothing left of them to bury?
And
that's why they don't have tombs?
The 580,000 names are from all nationalities. They're all in alphabetical order. They're not divided up by country. So you have Germans, Belgians, French, British, people from all over the world whose names are here on these walls. Just kind of adding weight to the overall tragedy of this conflict.
My God.
I'm just going to point out a few names etched into these panels. Here is the name of Francois Fabre. Francois Fabre was the winner of the 1909 Tour de France and was killed here in this area. So here we have an elite athlete who lost his life in the Great War. Here in the K section, we have the name John Kipling. This man was the son of author and poet Rudyard Kipling.
So it's not just soldiers, it's just people in general.
There in the middle of the screen, you can see the name Paul Malk. Paul Malk was a soldier in the German army and is thought to be the youngest enlisted soldier who was killed during the war. He died in June of 1915 and was 14 years old when he died.
Wow. Send a 14-year-old with a gun to fight. Wow.
Here among all of the names on this panel, you come across one that is a little bit different. This name right here, that of Joseph Standing Buffalo. Joseph Standing Buffalo fought with the Canadians and was killed in September of 1918 in the area of Arras, and was the grandson of Chief Sitting Bull. So Chris Mowry, on one of his channels, I think it will probably, at the time that I'm filming this, I think it's going to be on his Stories of the Great War channel, is going to be visiting the grave of Joseph Standing Buffalo. So you'll want to check that out.
That is just an astronomical amount of names. Just
At the beginning of this video,
amazing.
I made the comment that in order to fully understand and appreciate the Second World War, you really need to understand and appreciate the First World War. And I think coming to places like this really helps with that. I know, speaking from an American perspective, when you get to World War II, it's pretty easy to make derisive comments about the fact that, France surrendered to the Germans in 1940. But when you come to places like this and you see the scale of the loss that France endured in the First World War, it
wakes you up.
It gives you pause.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't be so easy for them to just jump right back into another war after having lost an entire generation and had towns and cities destroyed. But anyway, those are just a few things that I've been thinking about today as I've been walking the ground here. But that was a little bit from here at Notre Dame de la...
Look how just it's immaculate. I mean, that is absolutely immaculate. That's incredible looking. Look at that.
Lorette.
Wow. Yep. Well, that's what we gotta do, people. You want to keep the place you live in and fight for it. Unfortunately, that's where you end up. On both sides. Good video. Good video. Silent cities. I didn't know anything about that city, village, whatever. And look what this guy found in it. Oh my God. Well, there you have it, folks. Definitely a serious video for sure. Showing, what people... He's right. You got to see it to believe it. That's the best way to say it. You have to be there to see it, to really magnify it and be like, wow. It's not the same when you just talk about it. You know what I mean? It's not the same. When you see it, oof, that's where you feel it. See that? If you see it, you feel it. There you go. I'm going to patent that. All right. Anyway, Silent Cities, visiting the largest military cemetery in France. See what you guys think. Take care. Peace out. À la prochaine et bonsoir.